Tyrion puzzles out how his nephew must have found Littlefinger's Valyrian dagger amongst Robert's possessions, assuming that the king had probably forgotten he ever owned it. Joffrey must then have paid some unsavory freerider to open Bran's throat, though Tyrion still cannot figure out why, attributing it to Joffrey's innate cruelty for the moment. Tyrion is slightly drunk while Joffrey and Margaery are wed in the Great Sept of Baelor, and continues to drink until night falls and it is time for the great wedding feast. As they enter the ballroom, Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, comes over to tell Sansa how beautiful she looks, and the old lady straightens out the hairnet that Dontos gave her. Many at the wedding offer their condolences to Sansa on the loss of her mother and brother. Watching his wife's courteous and friendly nature to the other guests, Tyrion muses she would have made Joffrey a great what am I,
Yo,
five?
Widowy? She's widowy great.
Five?
It's widowy the best.
Jesus.
You gotta leave that in.
I have to leave that in.
Widowy?
What was that? She would have made Joffrey a great queen and wife if he'd had the sense to love her, something Tyrion believes his nephew incapable of. During the feast, Joffrey calls for the royal jousters, and the party is entertained as two dwarfs battle each other. Joffrey then mocks his uncle, commanding Tyrion to fight the dwarfs as the king's champion. Tyrion rebuffs him, but the king dumps a huge goblet of wine over Tyrion's head. Joffrey commands Tyrion to serve him wine, and then the hall erupts in laughter. Tyrion refills the goblet, and then the pigeon pie is brought out, and Joffrey calls for Sir Ilyn's sword. Sansa is horrified to learn that the king's justice no longer holds her father's greatsword ice. Joffrey calls for more wine, Margaery at his side, and then begins to eat some of Tyrion's pie. He commands Tyrion to serve him more wine, which Tyrion does. The king begins to cough, unable to breathe as he claws at his throat. Lady Olenna and Margaery call out for help, but the king's guard are powerless to do anything. As Grand Maester Pycelle calls for his potions, Tyrion dumps the rest of his wine on the floor, and Joffrey, now turning black, seems to either reach for or point at his uncle. Sansa has slipped off during the confusion, but when Cersei finally lets go of her son's lifeless body, she commands the Kingsguard to arrest Tyrion for murdering the king.
Whatever happened to due process?
Seriously.
Whatever happened to that? Oh man, so satisfying. I want us to think about this as readers, right? Like taking a step out of like, okay, what are the events? But let's think about what George just did to us. He gives us one of the most satisfying moments where Joffrey dies, which, by the way, George is getting us to celebrate a death of a child, which is pretty insane. Like, what a weird series this is. And then immediately rug pulls the feel-good moment, the revenge moment, by having Tyrion arrested. Like, he's just so good at giving you that little hope spot and then cutting you back down and putting the heat back on the protagonist. Like, it's just, it's so up and down reading this book. Storm of Swords is just such a great book.
It is a great book. And I agree with you. And I'll even go as to say is one of the most satisfying moments in the show, especially because Joffrey is such a better character in the show because there's more of him. And really, often we think about the show and we think about like great performances by actors and everything. And man, Joffrey's portrayal on screen is, I mean, it's better than the books just because he's there more. And I mean, everyone hated him. And I remember like on Twitter and everything, everyone just being like, thank God, like so happy that happened, because it happens. The purple wedding happens. I think it's like episode 2 of the following season, because the red wedding is the second to last episode.
Yeah, season 3, and then season 4 is Tyrion's trial.
Yeah, and see, but so if I'm not mistaken on that, am I? It's been a while since I've watched the show, but I'm pretty sure being like Purple Wedding was early in the next season, not like in the final season.
Yeah, and Jack Leeson did do a wonderful job. Really brought the character to life. Like, for me, it's actually one of the most loyal portrayals of the character. A lot of his lines, his mannerisms matched up perfectly. And by the way, shout out to Jack Leeson. He's going to be in House of Guinness, which is a new Netflix drama series about Arthur Guinness and the Guinness franchise coming out of Ireland and the kind of the secession war that started from that and inside that family. So the House of Guinness, I think, is actually, it looks really good. I'm very excited. Plus, I love Ireland and love Guinness, but Jack Leeson is in it.
I think he took a big break from acting, if I remember correctly.
He did.
He like retired from acting for a while after he did Game of Thrones. Probably because he made so much money. He's like, I'm
Well, no,
good.
he talked about it. He said he stopped because people hated him so
Yeah,
much they
that
were
too.
giving him death threats and
And all
stuff.
the interviews and stuff, he seemed like a really nice guy.
Oh, he's a terrific guy. Dude, honestly, who are these people who can't separate,
Yeah.
like, but seriously, who are these people? I don't know who these people are.
Yeah. Yeah, and same thing. I think that was really one of the things when you look at where the show expanded, all of the stuff with the Lannisters early on in
Yeah.
seasons like 1 through 4 to really make you hate them. Like everywhere they expanded Joffrey, everywhere they expanded Tywin.
Mm. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
Charles Dance's expanded role was
all
pivotal.
right. But really a lot of it was those characters together.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
Like the scene of Tywin going in when Joffrey's on the throne, he basically just like I mean, Joffrey's like literally like cowering in fear on the throne as he's talking to him that's nowhere in the books, but it's like one of the most powerful scenes, one of the most epic scenes in the whole show.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how good the first 4
Like,
to
oh,
6
5 seed,
seasons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Um, I did want to bring this up because we talked about this a few episodes back. We were kind of talking about, did Joffrey end up sending the dagger? And, I would say
Mhm.
that the accepted narrative right now is that, yes, Joffrey did do it. But we got a comment or something. I can't remember. I saw it from somebody, and they were in response to us saying that Lysa Arryn could have maybe sent the dagger.
Yes.
And I thought that that was such an interesting take, considering the fact that Lysa Arryn is obviously basically selling out the Starks for Littlefinger or with Littlefinger or whatever, as we actually end up learning at the end of Storm of Swords. And I'm not actually I'm not sure if it would not be possible. Like, I think it's possible that Lysa Arryn and Littlefinger schemed this. Littlefinger's like, I know they have the dagger.
Oh, yeah.
The dagger's with
Well,
them in the trunk. And then Lysa Arryn's like, okay, well, I know this guy at Winterfell, this
right, because
scoundrel
she
that's
was
hiring.
ready to throw Sansa out the moon gate.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Moon
and
door,
she
right?
and she, essentially is just lying the entire time.
Well,
So,
one of the theories I'm working on for a short right now that I want to come back to and have you and I discuss too is Littlefinger purposely getting the crown into debt.
ooh, dude, you know what? That's something that's totally undervalued in the
Because
series is the
so
Iron Bank.
I'm working, yeah, and I'm working on it right now, and so I don't have all the details, like direct quotes in front of me and stuff like that. But if you go back and look, actually, there's lines where Littlefinger talks about how like when Ned Stark's investigating and later when Tyrion is Hand of the King and Tyrion begins investigating,
Mm.
some of the things that are going on, the numbers simply do not add up whatsoever.
So
Right?
is George bad at math or
No, no, it's Littlefinger totally doing it because Littlefinger claims there's a line in there somewhere, and I don't have this all in front of me right now, but I'm working on the theory. I'm pulling up the quotes. Um, there's a line, and I think it's a Clash of Kings or something like that, where Littlefinger claims to have like, oh well, I raised the crown's income tenfold. Well, if you raise the crown's income tenfold, and you look at it, it's like I think like 6 million in debt. Like there's no amount of tourneys that could do that. It's just there's way too much debt compared to like when they talk about like how much it would cost,
yeah,
like how much
yeah.
to throw the hands tourney. It's not like millions of coin in order to have this tourney. And really it's like, yeah, Robert's having them, but he's not having them every day. He's not having them every week. The numbers don't make sense. But what does make sense is Littlefinger
Oh.
purposefully allowing it and having the money go here and have the money go here. And a lot of it is the Lannisters. And so the Lannisters are feeding all this money to the crown. And what do we know has happened is they're actually like out of gold because they've lent it all to the crown and the crown doesn't have it. So really, Littlefinger probably knows this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
He
he's got the ledgers. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who probably knows all of this. And remember, there's another theory I did way back in the day, and I'm kind of reworking right now, is one where Jamie, like Littlefinger's endgame, will be totally different than the books or the show,
Yeah.
excuse me,
Yeah.
because they just like ran out of ideas for him. He could still die the way he dies, but there will be like much more to it. So like Jamie, I think it's in not the Storm of Swords, but it's later. He talks about like thinking like, you know, Littlefinger, he's like a nobody. He dismisses him. Like there's a lot of internal monologue that Jamie has and others have thinking about Littlefinger, and they always look down on him. They always believe that he is actually not capable of the things that we as the reader actually know he is capable of doing.
Especially if he has a bunch of money that he has siphoned from the crown. And the first two things I think of, I think the obvious one is Faceless Men, because it's repeated time and time again how expensive that it is, right? So like that's certainly one place that we could go. But also there is the Golden Company.
Yeah.
Like if he wants to make a push for the throne, he might need an army. Who's to say? Who's to say?
And you think about his path forward, and he's the one when they go sniffing about the dagger, when they want to go investigate, who's the one they go to? Littlefinger. And Littlefinger's like, oh, I lost it to Tyrion at a tournament.
That's why,
which we also know may or may not be true, but Tyrion now is saying, giving us internal monologue that says that no, actually, it was just in Robert's possession, and Joffrey must have stolen it.
And I'm thinking, what if
it could have been
did?
Right, and it could have been Littlefinger, which makes but Littlefinger, the only problem is that Littlefinger didn't go. He wasn't with them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the dagger itself went there, and Joffrey does still like freak out a bit about it a little bit. So that's kind of the problem.
I do think that it is most likely Joffrey is the person, but my idea was if Littlefinger could use Lysa Tully to get somebody at Winterfell, because she probably knows people around Winterfell, around her sister, to then go and steal this dagger. And the guy that we see, like Lysa Tully could probably make that. I mean, she already sent a letter to Catelyn around the same time. Maybe she sent another letter that went to somebody else.
Right. But we also don't know that Littlefinger doesn't necessarily like put the idea in Joffrey's head.
Well, yeah, of course. That's definitely an option.
Like with somebody in his company, like having somebody to watch over him and hear his back and everything. But I think Littlefinger stands to benefit from it at the end of the day, because his ultimate goal is to get rid of Ned and get Catelyn. And then when that doesn't work, his goal is to get Sansa.
Yeah.
Because he's a weirdo.
Very big weirdo with a whole lot of motives. And like, I mean, you couldn't be more right. It's going to be very different from the show, because everything about him and Sansa is pretty much different. I mean, it was wholesale different. So I think the Iron Bank, by the way, is fascinating. I know George loves historical influences. I kind of wonder, this is just top of my head, I wonder if he would maybe base some of the Iron Bank storylines, whatever's coming, off of the Medici family, possibly. But we could look into that too.
Yeah. So we'll do big takeaways from this chapter, just because of, you know, it is a larger chapter. Yeah, I mean, so the dagger stuff is all kind of there early, and then that's really kind of the last we hear of it. Like going forward, it feels like Tyrion was really going to kind of piece this together. I do like early on in this chapter, Tyrion talks about like, man, if the father could just like take Joffrey out, it'd be great. Because that has been kind of a theme in this book. Is you'll see people perhaps like praying to gods or talking about gods, and then the gods will do something, and things happen. We've seen that in multiple chapters in A Storm of Swords, where they're like praying to a god early, and then later something happens.
Especially Davos.
Yeah, Davos and Sam was praying to a god, and Craster said, "Get right with the gods." And I mean, it's just it's a big part of this chapter, or of this book, excuse me. So yeah, and then ultimately the big one is, you know, Olenna Tyrell. Really, you know, if you pay attention, she's the one who is doing this to take out Joffrey and Margaery, and it's a big plan by their hand to prop themselves up even further. I guess it's crazy to really look at Margaery's arc, because Tyrion talks about it a little bit here, saying like, well, she actually technically was a Baratheon. She could have worn Baratheon garments, but she chose to wear Tyrell garments as she's coming into this wedding, and then she's going to get passed down to another Baratheon.
Yeah, and Joffrey sat aside his bride to marry her. Very Anne Boleyn-esque. Thomas Cromwell type stuff going on over here. Henry VIII. I mean, the historical influences on the series are so fascinating. Olenna Tyrell, though, Queen of Thorns, who we think is the one that has poisoned Joffrey, most likely. So isn't it interesting that she's on page, I think no more than maybe 3 or 4 times, and I might be being generous, such a legendary character for the
Yeah.
way that George writes her dialogue. And like, he's so good at doing the elderly woman POV, but whether it be, or I shouldn't say POV, but just like voice, like old Nan, Catelyn getting up there, being a mother, Olenna, Tyrell, Cersei. And the thing is he's not a one trick pony. Like, each of these women, yes, they're mothers, they look out for theirs, whatever. They all seem so different in the way they interact with their problems. And I just think Olenna Tyrell is legendary for the fact that she actually is not included a ton in the series, but is one of the most recognizable voices in the book. Like, when you're reading her dialogue, you know it's her.
Yeah, and again, she's another character in that I think the show really helped out, because it felt like she got a lot more screen time, and we see her ending, and I don't, we have no idea how she's going to end, because it all depends on if the Sept of Baelor actually blows up or not.
Well, we're
Like
at the Sept of Baelor today, in the purple wedding. That's where they get married.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, some ramifications of this. I mean, this is like the end. I would say, is this like the real end of Act 2, or is this the beginning of Act 3 of this book? I mean, it's, like, if you want to say the Red Wedding is the end, might be the end of Act 2, and now we're like, this is really the thing that kicks us into gear into Act 3, because everything now just totally downhill.
Yeah, it's certainly kind of the inciting incident to the second half of this book, which is mostly centered around Tyrion. And so much of what happens right here in this scene will actually play out in many scenes later, of the way Tyrion ends up treating Penny and the knight, or the riders in the scene, who are also smaller, and how he sees them almost as like a mockery of himself. It's just interesting to think that a lot of the stuff that Tyrion ends up dealing with and having so much angst over in A Dance with Dragons is beginning right here, right now.
Yeah. There's some theories on this chapter that I thought would be kind of fun to explore. And this is one I've seen, and like, I think it's from this, I copy and pasted it, actually diving through my old docs to just pull up some Purple Wedding. And I have one where somebody suggested that Joffrey's death may have actually been an accident, and the poison was intended for Tyrion instead.
I don't know, Matt. That seems a little outrageous.
No, so it's a pretty interesting argument. So the way it goes is essentially saying that the Littlefinger Queen of Thorns team supplies Sansa with the hairnet of the amethyst, the stranger, and using Dontos. And supposedly if this hairnet was discovered, no blame would fall on Lady Olenna, and Littlefinger was out and about, so he's free of blame as well. But with Littlefinger, Littlefinger is the one who arranges the jousting team, and Lady Olenna and Littlefinger conspired to kill Joffrey. Case closed. That's just the route it's going. But if Joffrey's death was an accident, remember, the Queen of Thorns initially wanted to marry Sansa to Willis. And as they walk into the wedding feast, the Queen of Thorns invites Sansa to visit Highgarden. Why? Maybe she still wants to marry Sansa to Willis. At this point, everyone believes that Sansa is the sole surviving Stark, meaning she still has claim to Winterfell, and possibly Queen of the North, if in the north of the Reach might make a better team than Highgarden and Casterly Rock. But to marry Willis, Sansa would need to be a widow. So what if the intended target was Tyrion, and Joffrey came over and drank the wine that was in front of Tyrion and ate pie from Tyrion's plate, pie or wine that would have been poisoned by the Queen of Thorns? So was Joffrey the intended target? We think so, but at the same time, it also seems like Margaery, the show expands this a little bit further. So, you kind of have to maybe kind of pull some show canon in here as well. But George was at least still writing for the show at this point. So, you kind of take it for a grain of salt. But even here, we still do see when Joffrey is going to cut the pie, and he's going to use a widow's wail, and Margaery says, "Oh no, you shouldn't use that. Valyrian steel isn't meant for that." And he's like, "Yeah, you're right. I should use a different sword." So like, she is still at least able to control him somewhat. So like, the idea is, well, if we have this piece under lock, then we could have the piece of Winterfell as well. That might be more. That might, in the long run, be more valuable because you'd have now more of it than just that. Because because what if they say Margaery can't marry Tommen? I mean, sure, it seems like an automatic thing, but Tommen's really young. They might just be like, "We'll find him a different bride." What if people are like, Marjorie's cursed because 2 kings have died trying to marry her?
I think that Olenna believes in Marjorie's abilities to sink her claws into Tommen as a sweet young boy. And so I could like definitely see a case for this if the conversation in I believe the Rose Garden with Sansa hadn't happened. Olenna seems to know that Marjorie will not suffer under Joffrey. Like she just has a confidence. I think from that moment, maybe even before, she knew that she was going to have Joffrey taken care of as a monster. I do enjoy this theory. Like this is a really fun, like let's play with the motivations of the characters. But I don't. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, what makes it kind of fun too is also that if this does happen and Littlefinger, of course, is still in on it, then Littlefinger could be like betraying Olenna, like thinking, "Oh, sure, I'll help you," because we all think Joffrey's a monster because nobody really knows his interest in Sansa, right? And so that could be like him being like, "Actually, this isn't the route we're gonna go."
Yeah, I mean, I always like things that get Peter Baelish more time on page. I mean, he's creepy and everything, but
Well,
he's so
because it is also, I mean, it's right. He drinks the goblet of wine like in front of Tyrion and everything. It's not like he.
You know, it would have been really fun, but it's not. There's no way. As if Cersei had tried to poison Tyrion and accidentally poisoned Joffrey.
Oh God, yeah.
But obviously, we know that's not true because we are in her head, in her POV. But just thinking about different alternatives there, that would have been kind of a cool way to go about it. And the Cersei POVs would have been even more unhinged. She also probably would have stopped him then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a bad look for Tyrion. Like it looks like he's guilty here.
100%. He's standing like right there. Joffrey's pointing at him.
Pissed.
Yeah.
It's just
plus remember he gets drunk at the feast and everything, and
yeah.
I mean, the show again, that's another like showism, kind of embellishes it a little bit more than it. Yeah.
Makes him look even more guilty, if anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this moment's pretty pivotal, and then the next big moment, outside of obviously murdering his father, being the tunnels where he lies to Jaime, which we all know the show infamously did not do, which I think is literally the beginning of a major crack in the TV show. I think that was such
Do we think it's a lie? Do we?
I think so. Yeah, I think
we did a theory on this. Did Susie, what is wrong with me today? Did Cersei bang Moon Boy? Did she? Jamie
Maybe
thinks about it like 3 to 4 times, like 3 to 4 different chapters.
So you're thinking Moon Boy has a bigger part to play?
Maybe.
Is that what you're telling me? Moon Boy is really the key to it all. I know you said Stannis is the biggest wild card, but I think it's actually Moon Boy, dude. Moon Boy is actually brothers with Patches.
He might be. Hang on, let me pull this over here so I can see it on my like 50 inches of monitor here. I think Moon Boy is in here, but Tyrion tries to save him too. You know, like Tyrion's like, "Hey, somebody get over here to help," and so that's kind of. But you know, nobody's going to believe him. Everyone thinks he's a monster. It's a total great win. In a way, it's a great win for Tywin.
Oh, it's a huge win for Tywin because now he has a reason to get rid of Tyrion. And we'll have a bunch of stuff to say about Tyrion and Tywin with their final interaction because I have so many things to ask you what you feel about, but I think that'll be better saved for when that episode comes around. But yeah, I imagine at this moment, Tywin is looking at this as a disaster, but then thinking, how can I spin this to my advantage? And seeing the fact that he could most likely get Tyrion out of his hair is probably a pretty feel-good moment from him.
Yeah. I mean, Joffrey does straight up So I guess the question is, what does everyone believe, right? Does everyone think that it's the wine, or do they think it's the pie? Because the pie is probably what's poisoned, since
Yeah.
he's. But how does Olenna? Because they don't. How does she know to poison Tyrion's pie? And that's kind of an interesting question. If she poisons Tyrion's pie and Tyrion goes to eat it, then Tyrion's the one who gets poisoned. So how did she know that Joffrey was going to eat a piece of Tyrion's pie?
Well, we don't know. So we don't know if it's the pie, right? We don't know that for a fact.
We don't. We don't actually know. I don't think know
And
at
there's
all.
the whole hairpin in Sansa's hair, and did that have the poison? Like, there's so many different lines for it. So, like, I don't know.
Also, putting it in Sansa's hair is like kind of weird because it never really
it's very weird.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like using her as the
Well, it kind of goes back
scapegoat.
to it goes back to how the Tyrells are kind of hard to trust. Like,
Well, yeah,
they
they're
do
very hard.
things like every now and then the Tyrells do something and we're all like, yeah, get them, the Tyrells. We love it. But then the Tyrells act in their own interest, which is not something, as a reader we want to see. And we're like, are they really on our side, or are they like tweeners? They're going back and forth. And I think in any way implicating Sansa is a problem. So here's a question. Do you think Olenna wanted this to happen to Tyrion? Or do you think she was going to ship Sansa and Tyrion upset? Because remember this whole thing about like Sansa being out of the picture. That still happens if Sansa is found with any trace of the poison on her, or if she's just blamed, which likely would have happened alongside of Tyrion, right? So like,
Yeah. Well, let me read it here.
okay.
Okay. My uncle hasn't eaten his pigeon pie. Holding the chalice one-handed, Joff jammed his other into Tyrion's pie. It's ill luck not to eat the pie. He scolded as he filled his mouth with hot spiced pigeon. See, it's good. Spitting out flakes of crust, he coughed and helped himself to another fistful. Dry, though, needs washing down. Joff took a swallow of wine and coughed again more violently. So I feel like the pie was the thing that was poisoned, not the wine. I want to see, and then he's, coughing and everything. And then Margaery looks at him, Your Grace. He's saying some other thing. He takes another drink, or tried to, but all the wine came spewing back out when another spat of coughing doubled him over, his face turning red. I can't, and then it slips out. He yells, he's choking. Help the poor boy, the Queen of Thorns screeched. He's standing there gaping. Everyone rushes over, essentially turn him over. He's going to die. Tyrion realized. He felt curiously calm. Through pandemonium raged all about him. They were pounding Joff on the back again, but his face was only growing darker. Dogs were barking, children were wailing, men were shouting useless advice at each other. Sir Meryn pried the king's mouth open to try to jam a spoon down his throat as he did. Jesus. The boy's eyes met Tyrion. He has Jaime's eyes, only he never seen Jaime look so scared. The boy's only 13. Joffrey was making a dry, cracking noise, trying to speak. His eyes bulged white with terror, his hand lifted, reaching for his uncle or pointing. Is he begging for my forgiveness, or does he think I can save him? He's definitely not begging for your forgiveness.
No, certainly not. And maybe he was thinking Tyrion could save me with his smaller hands. He could fit him down my throat and whatever. No, I mean, he clearly is accusing him with the point. Or maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just, he's out. He's almost gone, and he's just, it looks like he's alluding to Tyrion, but people can see many different things. That's why eyewitness is so unreliable.
Yeah, so then it does continue a little bit here, and he goes and he picks up the chalice, forgotten on the floor. He went and scooped it up. There was still half-inch deep of purple wine in the bottom of it. Tyrion considered it for a moment, then poured it on the floor. Tyrion's thinking, I should leave now. Instead, he waddles over towards Cersei. Her sister sat in a puddle, cradling her son's body. Her gown was torn and everything. The boy is gone, Cersei, Lord Tywin said. He put his gloved hand on his daughter's shoulder as one of the guardsmen, shoot away the dog. Unhand him now, let him go. She didn't do anything. Then the High Septon knelt beside him. Father above, judge our good King Joffrey justly, which remember Tyrion at the very beginning of this was thinking, man, if only the father could take Joffrey out for me. He choked, sweetling. He choked on the pie. It was not to do with you. He choked. We all saw. He did not choke. He was poisoned. She looked at the White Knight standing. Kingsguard, do your duty. Arrest my brother. She commanded him. He did this. He and his little wife take them.
Who is now suspiciously
So
missing.
Tyrion thinks it's the wine.
Yeah, and I could see it being the wine. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel like I've always seen people say it was the wine. Like I think that's the common belief. Here's a question for you, Matt. If Sansa had not ran, which made Tyrion look far more guilty, I mean, I say she ran, she was kind of being played along with all this. But do you think the trial goes any different, or you think Sansa just also gets sentenced to death?
If it all comes out that they just entirely blame Tyrion on it and she has no knowledge of it or anything, I mean, I feel like they could totally spin it to the small folk to be like, wow, Sansa's like her dad tried to betray the king and everything. But at the end of the day, she's still the heir to Winterfell.
Yeah, but they've also have this false Arya Stark in the works already, so they might not need her at all.
Yeah, but they don't know that it's false Arya. They think it's her.
Oh no, I think the Lannisters know it's not. I think that
The Boltons don't.
Well, I think the Boltons honestly probably do too.
You think so?
I think Roose probably knows. I don't know if Ramsay would know.
How would Roose know when he was there with Arya at Harrenhal?
But he doesn't know it's Arya. Remember, he doesn't know.
Well, then how does he know that this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So,
I think that's the whole point. I think that's the whole
Okay, so you're saying he doesn't know. I think the Lannisters know they're putting up a false Arya, though. I think that is probably still true. So, if they have this, or they think they even have the real Arya, do they really even need Sansa?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't. But I think that's one of the things that makes where they did it different in the show, where it's Tywin. I think that is, and then Sansa is with the Boltons. But I think that's actually one of the kind of cool things about it, is that Bolton is there at Harrenhal, and Arya doesn't realize that it's Arya. And then also they have a fake Arya and they think it's the real deal, because that kind of makes that piece work.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking about it, though. I mean, the Red Wedding has happened. The Starks are almost decimated. If they kill off Sansa,
they could just take it and do it.
Roose is basically the guy already. So they don't really need the Starks anymore this point,
No,
so,
not really.
So I actually think, I think they would have killed Sansa here. I think they would have sentenced her to death alongside Tyrion.
Do we actually we don't see where the poison comes from? We don't see a wine cup get passed somehow that Olenna is the one who puts it in or anything.
Yeah, I will say I could see the Olenna Tyrell storyline possibly working out even without the Sept of Baelor, if they go a different way with it. But that same conversation could happen in a Jaime POV, I think. Maybe. I mean, there's so many things with the Tyrells that it's going to be different. I mean, there's a lot of people who think Margaery's going to end up with young Griff.
Margaery could still be the younger, more beautiful queen.
Damn.
That's
crazy to think about.
But it could be
Dany,
Daenerys, Sansa.
I think the Anne Boleyn theory
could be.
When we talked about how Margaery was Anne Boleyn, and I remember Lady Adrian talking about this, but I think the theory to kind of tie it into Anne Boleyn, because Anne Boleyn was beheaded. Spoilers for Henry VIII, I guess. But Margaery, what if she tries to marry young Griff, another king? This would be another king, right? And when she does, she's actually beheaded for her role. And then that would actually make her very similar to Anne Boleyn in some ways. Yeah. So
rather than being blown up, that's the real question. Is the Sept of Baelor even going to blow up?
There's definitely something with wildfire, but I think a lot of people have speculated that the wildfire is more so maybe an end game type deal. Like Dany accidentally setting them off or something,
which we did actually kind of see in season 8. Remember when she's torching the city and there's
and
some of it was exploding, like the caches of wildfire. I mean, for whatever all the season 8 at least was somewhat of a cool little detail.
They remembered some stuff. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
nice.
didn't remember a lot of things, but they did. That's what they famously said, right? I kind of forgot Euron was there.
Oh my god,
so bad.
Oh god. So I mean, I don't know. The Sept of Baelor. I mean, I would be fine if it happened in the books because it's such an excellent scene in the TV show. And man, we talk about drama. That is as big of drama as you can get. I don't know. I think the wildfire might have something to. It's definitely going to happen. Like Chekhov's gun, it's going to happen. You don't have the wildfire there and mentioned without it coming up later, and it would be a pretty good payoff to do the Sept of Baelor at this point.
Yeah, I've still always thought of like the idea of they use it as like a nuke.
Yeah,
If like if the White Walkers come all the way down, which I
they
thought,
will.
going back to season 8, and I guess you could still do it here, right? Is potentially you go to the route of Dany is the good one, and she actually is the one who comes over and saves Westeros rather than kind of what she did in the show, which is like the total opposite, where she just like commits genocide essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've always kind of thought like, man, what if Cersei was the one who like pulled the trigger and blew it up and to save Westeros? Like that would just be such a like total shocker, right? Like Cersei in the end is the one who.
Well, yeah, and I don't remember who said this, but I remember someone talking about, and this is really cool, is Dany does come over, Dany ends up getting the throne and then goes north, or even young Griff, doesn't matter. They go north, right, to fight the others. And while they're gone, Cersei actually sacks King's Landing and sets off the wildfire, killing like most of King's Landing while they're doing the fight with the White Walkers. My only problem with that is I actually think the White Walkers will make their way to King's Landing. I think the only reason why it didn't happen in the show is because of budget.
Yeah, and they just didn't want to, for whatever reason, they went their route there.
They wanted it separate. I don't think it's going to be nearly as separated in the books as it was in the
No,
show.
because I mean, you and I were talking about some of the stuff we've been looking at Craster and all this stuff. I mean, George has
Yeah,
set up so much stuff. It's almost like the gods are playing their own Game of Thrones. I mean, it's just going to be so different when you really begin
yeah.
to look. When you like, it does sometimes feel like two separate stories are going on. Like there's
Mhm.
like the total mystical side of everything, and then there's also the political side of everything, like in the Game of Thrones and everything that's going on in the South, which is also kind of just the way the story works. But at some point, they are going to come together, and it is a song of ice and fire. It is meant to, at the end of the day, the magic side of it is going to be the bigger piece of the story that is going to all come together. Whether it's like Euron sailing in with like a kraken, or who knows, what it is, or it's Bran going like dark side with a three-eyed crow. Is the
Mhm.
three-eyed crow like an aspect of the Great Other, the Weirwoods, all of this stuff? There's just too much mysticism and
Fantastical
magic
elements,
and
yeah.
fantastical elements, especially because Dany in the books is just, she's a bit like, she's kind of, I mean, she's a big deal in the show, but she's like an even bigger deal in the books.
Yeah, oh, absolutely bigger deal. Yeah.
So
And we have the wild card of young Griff. I mean,
exactly. So there's just too much to it that a lot of these players will either be likely off the board by the time you finally get down to the whole thing, or a lot of these players' roles won't matter. Like they'll be like second nature to all the big, stuff that's going on.
mhm. Yeah. I think it's all going to be wrapped pretty tightly together. I think it'll definitely be a little bit more interwoven, and I do believe that the battle happens at King's Landing, personally.
Yeah, I think that's a more, or like the Trident. Some people have suggested, but certainly just not a big battle at Winterfell being like the final showdown.
Yeah, I don't see it being Winterfell.
It needs to
Um,
matter more. It needs bigger stakes. It needs.
yeah, in many ways, it's like I don't know. Like if you think about it, it's kind of like whatever. Like Winterfell's
Right.
already been burnt to the ground. I don't know. Just the last stand being a Winterfell doesn't really ring true to me. I mean, the only interesting thing about it being a Winterfell, in my opinion, is the crypts, and that didn't matter at all in the show after we thought it would. So they didn't even use what they had there. I don't think, and we know like budget reasons affect the why they would do things and the way they would do things, and I think Winterfell being the location for the long night is almost assuredly has to have something to do with the budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, any other thoughts on this chapter, the Purple Wedding?
No,
Big
no.
shift, right? And then next week actually is a really small chapter, by the
Yeah,
way.
yes,
It
but it's
is
Sansa.
It is. So we get the fallout. We get the fallout of the purple wedding.
Yes, and Sansa's arc begins now, and boy, is it different from what it was in the book or in the show. So
Yeah,
very fun
and then
stuff.
yeah, the